Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome on in to another edition of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I am your host, Adam Karnick, glad to be with you here tonight. Going to be talking a lot of baseball on the show this evening. The Cubs off to a peculiar start so far into the season. 500 at this point, but they should really be better than that, shouldn't they? We will be discussing that. Plus, Willson Contreras is back in town. Another member of that fabled 2016 championship team is back, and now he's wearing Cardinal red. How did the crowd out at Wrigly react when he got his name announced? We'll discuss that. And also, Contreras has not exactly been fitting in nicely down there in St. Louis. We will discuss that a little bit as well. We'll also talk baseball. On the other side of town, the White Sox are off to a just absolutely dreadful start to the season. Is there any hope on the horizon of good news coming at all for the White Sox? Finally, the WNBA season is right around the corner, so we'll do a little bit of a Sky preview as well. A very different-looking Chicago Sky team is going to be in store for us this season. A lot of missing faces, so we'll get to learn some new people in new roles over there with James Wade's squad. And then finally, the NFL can really be infuriating in the offseason. We will tease that at the end of the program as well. All that and more coming up here on Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle on up, everybody. Let's have some fun. And once again, hello and good evening, everyone. Sorry for the little bit of a false start there to the episode tonight. As it was pointed out that all my equipment was working. I had the microphone muted on your end, so I could hear me just fine. I sounded great. Trust me, none of you could hear me. So we did a little bit of a restart, reset. So welcome on in, hence take 2 on the name for the episode tonight. Welcome on in. I am your host, Adam Karnick. Glad that you are here with me this evening. Lots that we're going to be going through tonight. Going to be talking a lot of baseball. I'm glad that we get to start off the show with baseball tonight. So we're going to be talking both sides of town. Great game going on the north side right now. Big rivalry matchup between the Cubs and the Cardinals. The White Sox are also in action tonight, so we will keep up with them as well as they are down in Kansas City taking on the Royals. Big AL Central matchup going on there. And just take the temperatures on both sides of town a little bit, see where they're at, and then we'll get into some WNBA hoops before we get out of here. And then, we have to still talk a little bit of football before we get out of here as well. But before we get too much further, of course, we do need to handle our homework here on the station. IE Sports Radio, we have been around now for almost 9 years. It is going to be our 9-year anniversary here in just a little over a week's time. And all that time, we continue to be by the fans, for the fans, bringing you content ranging from just outstanding interviews to talking all great sports across all great cities across the U.S. of A. At the same time, we could use your help because we're ready to take the next step. If you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll find a link to our Patreon page. Become a Patreon supporter. It starts at just $5 a month. $5 gets you a shout out on every single one of our shows. Shout out right now to Los Great, Key to the Gate, Bay Area Raised, and our anonymous supporter. Higher tiers gets you access to our podcasting university, gets you access to some of our merchandise, and even if you go high enough, you get your own dedicated segment on The Defining Moment with Larry B., the flagship show here on IE Sports Radio. Thank you for continuing to support us through these just about 9 years. we are looking forward to many, many, many more shows to come. Thank you again to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emerald's Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. IE Sports Radio is available for you on all of the major social platforms, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Just search at IE Sports Radio. This show is available for you on Twitter at IESRC. I am at Adam_Karnick on Twitter. Please feel free to follow along both those venues as well. If you are listening live here Monday night in the Spreaker.com app, hop on into the chat room. You'll find Taryn Rodriguez and Mike Pat are already there. Good evening, gentlemen. Hop on into the chat. We can interact that way, have some fun back and forth that way. The chat room, sometimes it can wind up being a show in and of itself there, depending on how everybody's feeling and participating there with that. But if you're listening later on in the week, whether it's on Spreaker or YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, any one of our other platforms, or if you're just wanting to sit back and listen to my voice, however you're taking in this show, thank you for doing so. I really do appreciate that. All right, let's get this show underway here. I love that we're getting to start with baseball tonight. I love football, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to kind of put that on the back burner a little bit and talk some of the other sports. We've got so many awesome teams in town. I really do enjoy putting on some of my other hats when I get to do this show. It's one of the great things about getting to do this show is getting to take off one hat and putting on another and diving through all the different areas, all the terrific sports that Chicago has to offer. And so tonight we start things off on the north side of town at Wrigley Field. Willson Contreras is back. Now, of course, we've gotten to experience this a few times already. We've had Anthony Rizzo come back. We've had Chris Bryant come back. That was a tough one. That was a tough one for me. Not everybody's got their own guy from that 2016 team. Chris Bryant was mine. That was my guy. We've had John Lester's return. We've had Kyle Schwarber come back, et cetera, et cetera. We've had a lot of these guys come back already. So we're kind of used to this already. So I was curious to see what the reaction for Willson Contreras was going to be as he comes back wearing Cardinal red. We've had a few months to get used to that idea that not only is he going to be wearing somebody else's uniform, he's going to be wearing that team's uniform. He's going to be wearing the St. Louis uniform. Ugh. What was the reaction going to be? He took his first at-bat right before the show started. It was 6:59 when he stepped up to the plate, took his first at-bat, got a very nice ovation from the crowd. Marcus Stroman stepped off the mound, gave him a round of applause. The crowd was generally warm. It was a good reception. He tipped his cap to the crowd. He was very appreciative. He had talked before the game. He didn't know what kind of a reception that he was going to get. He was asked directly, if they boo you, are you okay becoming the villain in this rivalry a little bit? And he kind of chuckled and he gave a very honest answer. And he was, we'll see. But if that's what I need to be, if that's what people want me to be, I can be that. So he gave a very honest answer. It was nice to hear. And then he responded by getting a base hit up the middle. He was the first Cardinals base runner of the evening. But it's nice to see Contreras back. He's not exactly fitting in great there in St. Louis, as Mike Pat so perfectly sets me up here, failing to live up to Yadier Molina's standard. Yeah, it's a really interesting situation going on there with St. Louis and Contreras, because he signed that 5-year, $87 million deal in the offseason, ostensibly to be the guy that replaced Yadier Molina, that took over for a surefire Hall of Famer. And here we are 35-ish game, a little over 5 weeks, 7 weeks into the season, and they've already benched him. He is no longer the catcher for the Cardinals. They're going to have him DH. They're going to have him play the outfield some. It's a strange situation going on there in St. Louis, and you gotta figure, what in the world was St. Louis thinking? That how did it's Contreras and the pitching staff haven't necessarily been in lockstep, and the Cardinals have a fairly veteran staff already. And so it's been, rather than, hey, you guys have to figure this out and make this work, the response has been, okay, well, then we're just going to, if you don't want him catching you, then we're not going to have him catch you. We'll figure out somebody else to catch these pitchers. They like his bat in the lineup. He has been dealing with some injuries a little bit, so that's probably contributed somewhat, as Contreras actually scored the first run of the game, and the Cardinals are actually now up 1-0 here in the second inning. But it's interesting that they've already decided that he can't be the catcher for this team just 6 weeks into a 5-year deal. Very, very strange situation going on there. I feel for him. It's always hard when you're replacing a legend, but it feels like St. Louis is making a massive, massive mistake here. It's going to be fascinating to keep an eye on. But the Cubs, can Contreras play the outfield? Well, the Cubs actually used him in a variety of spots. So I'll back up a little bit here with Contreras. One thing to remember with him, he didn't become a catcher until he was already well established in the Cubs minor league system. I believe he was in Double-A already when he converted. He was a corner infielder to start with. If I remember right, he was a third baseman originally when the Cubs acquired him, and they were looking through their organization as a whole and felt that they were very, very thin at catcher. And so they went to their various minor league programs and said, and just offered it up. Would anybody be interested in switching to catcher? Would anybody be interested in learning this position? And Contreras took a look at it and said, yeah, I'll put on that gear. I'll give it a try. I'll give it a go. And so he's very much been a work in progress as a defensive catcher. Obviously, his framing has always been the weakest part of his game, but he's got a terrific arm. He can throw to any spot on the diamond. But when he made it up to the big leagues, the Cubs actually, on occasion, to give him a spell, to give his knees a break, and to also give him a mental break from all the behind-the-scenes duties of catching, they would throw him into the diamond from time to time. He played some first base, and he played some corner outfield. He's played some left and right field in his time with the Cubs. He wasn't... The few times that I remember seeing him out there, he wasn't necessarily fantastic at it, but he was certainly serviceable. He's got the arm that he could play. He could easily play right field and make that throw to the plate and gun a runner down for you. I believe they used him mostly in left field when he's there, but I'm pretty sure he played a little bit of right when he was there with the Cubs. And he didn't look 2017 Kyle Schwarber out of place. I'll put it that way, where it was you were clearly, or to use the White Sox analogy, he didn't look like Gavin Sheets out there, where it was you're clearly having a first baseman play outfield, and it's just, oh boy, this could end very badly. This Mike brings up an Orioles player that started off as a shortstop and is now a first baseman. Yeah, you don't see that switch very often, but yeah, that would make him very athletic for a first baseman. Yeah, because usually your first basemen are, I want to be kind. They're usually your least athletic of your diamond players. Yeah, your first baseman, he usually doesn't have to move very far, and you're not as concerned with his throwing arm. He's not having to throw the ball too terribly often. But yes, it's surprising what's going on with Contreras and the Cardinals a little bit right now. But so the Cubs right now coming into play, they're 17-17 overall, sitting right in the middle of a strange National League Central. I mean, this division is about as upside down as you could have right now. You have the Cardinals coming into play tonight at 11-24, 9 games back, just 2-8 in their last 10. 9 games out of first place in the division. And then you have the Pittsburgh Pirates at 20-15, leading the National League Central. Now, they are on a 7-game losing streak, those Pirates. So perhaps things are starting to course correct there a little bit for the Pirates. Because, I mean, when we closed out the month of April and the Pirates were sitting there in first place, it was, when in the hell did the Pirates decide to become good at baseball? You know, it's very just unnerving to see them at the top. And frankly, here we are May 8th and they're still in first place. That's a little jarring, to be honest. I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, it's still very off-putting to see them there. Milwaukee's right behind them at 19-15, just a half game out. Cubs right at 500. They're 17-17. Then the Reds at 14-20. But what makes the Cubs record so peculiar. Now, if you're a first-time listener on the show, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being here. Secondly, you're going to learn, for as much as I talk about how I don't like math, I use a heck of a lot of it in sports. I've talked a lot about a lot of the different, more advanced analytics in baseball. But there's a very simple one that comes up when you're looking at a team and looking at their record. You say, okay, yeah, that's their record, but what's their run differential? If you're around 500, which the Cubs are exactly 500, you would expect that, their run differential, for those that don't know, that's the amount of runs you've scored versus the amount of runs you've given up. You'd expect it to be right around 0, meaning you've scored about as many as the other team has, hence why you're 500. Maybe you're plus or minus 5 or 10 one way or the other, but somewhere in that range, somewhere in that vicinity. The Cubs entering play tonight are plus 46. Now, to put that in perspective, not only is that best in the National League Central by a wide margin, the next closest is Pittsburgh at plus 18, almost 30 runs behind the Cubs. That plus 46 run differential, there's only one team in the entire National League that is better, that has a better run differential than the Cubs. That's the Atlanta Braves. The Atlanta Braves are 24-11. The Cubs have a better run differential than the Dodgers. The Dodgers are 21-14. I know we're gonna flip leagues a little bit here, but that's a better run differential than the Boston Red Sox, the Toronto Blue Jays. Mike, that's a better run differential than your Baltimore Orioles. Your Baltimore Orioles are 10 games over 500 at 22-12. Their run differential is only plus 29. Good grief, the entire American League East is plus run differential? Holy. What, do they just haven't played any divisional games so far? How the heck does that happen? Anyway, that's not for this show to discuss. Oh, God, then I look into the American League Central. The Kansas City Royals have already given up. Oh, holy crap. The Oakland A's, yes, they have just surrendered. As I now see the numbers from the rest of the league. I had looked at some of the numbers ahead of time. Now I'm getting caught up on the entire league. Wow, there's some ugly numbers in there. But yeah, the Cubs, that run differential should, there's fancy math that goes into this, but basically there's an advanced statistic that is called your expected one-loss record, which is they basically look at your run differential and say, all right, with this run differential, this is the record we would expect you to have. Based on the Cubs' run differential, they should be 22-12 right now, according to ESPN. They should be 10 games over, which would put them in line with, that would put them more in line with, again, the Braves, the Dodgers of the National League, be putting them right at the tippy top. They should be 2.5 games in front of Pittsburgh based on their runs. Yet they're at 500. So I'm encouraged by the Cubs. I expect that means one of two things is going to happen. Yeah, Mike, I'm not bashing the Orioles. I know it's crazy. Here we are. We're having a somewhat bit of a conversation about the Baltimore Orioles on this show. One of my wife's adopted teams. She lived out in the Baltimore area for a little while. Loves the ballpark there. One of these years we're going to get out there to it. And I'm having, at least, if maybe not necessarily positive things, I'm not having negative things to say about them. It's kind of crazy, I know. But what this means, what this really boils down to for the Cubs, it means one of two things. Their record and their run differential, they're at odds with each other. Something's got to give here. Either the record is real and they're going to start losing by a lot. They're going to start giving up a lot of runs to kind of balance that out. Or what I think honestly is more likely to happen is they're going to start winning games. Some more games, and we're going to see that record improve. The Cubs right now, as we come into play today, the Cubs, of their 34 games, 10 of them have been decided by one run. Generally, in one-run games, over the course of an entire season, you're going to wind up right around 500 in one-run games. You're going to roughly win as many as you lose. As of right now, the Cubs are 2-8 in one-run games. 6 games under 500 in those one-run games. If we were talking about the Bears in the NFL right now, I might be saying, boy, that's troubling. If they're losing all these one-possession games, that's troublesome for this season. That probably won't correct itself until next year. Baseball is different because they play 162 of these things. That's going to course correct, I feel like. That's going to fix itself a little bit. You're going to see the Cubs start winning some more of these one-run games. They've been really good overall this season with runners in scoring position. I know they hit a little bit of a lull there the last couple weeks, but it's fixing itself a little bit. We've seen a couple of their young kids come up. Miguel Amaya came up. Matt Mervis made his debut at Wrigly over the weekend. That was a ton of fun. Oh, I know what else we're going to be talking about. We just had some breaking news come through. Oh, I'm going to have fun talking about that. We're going to have some adjustment on the docket for tonight, folks. But we'll finish out this baseball segment. We'll finish out this Cubs segment, and then we're going to pull an audible a little bit here. But looking at the Cubs, you had a couple of these young guys come up, have some nice debuts, get some things turned around to kind of put into perspective of how weird this has been for the Cubs. Here, just a perfect example. They got done with their entire season's slate of the Marlins. They've played 6 games against the Marlins. They're done with Miami. They went 2-4 in those 6 games. They actually outscored the Marlins, though, by a run. That's the perfect capsule of this season for the Cubs. They all 4 games that they lost to Miami were by one single run. And then they won their 2 games by a combined 5 runs. That's kind of where the Cubs are at right now. So if you were to line up and say, okay, the Cubs are going to play the Marlins again in the postseason, I would take the Cubs in that series. Absolutely. Yeah, they dropped 4 out of 6 in the regular season, but they actually outscored them. Every game they lost was a tight 1-run game. You're going to get some of those, and not every game is going to be 1 run. And the Cubs have been doing really well outside of the 1-run games. So the combination of, their record in 1-run games is bound to improve. Just that's what happens. And they've been doing really well outside of those 1-run games. Cubs are going to be okay. I think we're going to see some more wins out of them this season. And looking at their schedule, they've got the Cardinals right now. Then they've got the Twins. Yeah, they do have the Astros down in Houston. But they've got some really good opportunities. The schedule sets itself up pretty nicely here in May for them to stack some wins together and put some good ones together. So I think we're going to see some good things coming up. All right. We are going to take a quick break, and then on the other side, we're going to pull an audible. There was some huge news that just broke out of the NHL, so we're going to talk a little bit of Blackhawks on the other side. I know that wasn't on the program. Hang with me. We're gonna talk some Blackhawks next. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, sports fans. Are you in the market for Florida sports, or just keeping up with the latest in the Panhandle? Palm Tree Sports is a dedicated audio hub to all things sports in the Sunshine State. We cover current events, big news, heavily favored opinions all across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and so much more. So come check us out every Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For a down south education on Florida sports and athletics, it's hosted by yours truly, Corey Pujols, and is powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey there, sports fans. Are you looking for a sports show that maybe isn't 100% about sports?
Then you might want to check out the Sports Couple Perspectives right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Most sports shows cover only scores and stats, and while we're not opposed to that, we dig a little deeper into sports issues and some of the hottest topics in athletics.
In addition to sports, we take a journey through my neck of the woods, pop culture, with movie reviews of both sports and non-sports films.
Speaking of pop culture, make sure to participate in our game nights, where we quiz each other on our specialties, and you, the listeners, can win IE Sports Radio apparel.
We always have a great time learning more about each other's worlds, one show at a time.
So join us each week on the Sports Couple Perspectives, right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the '08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies,
And your one-timers,
you wicked wristas.
and be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Davidson,
It's your boy, Notorious Law.
and we are the hosts of Fast Break here on IE Sports Radio, where we discuss everything in the world of basketball from prep to the pros.
You guys should definitely check us out, man. Sunday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. We got all the basketball information you guys need, so we look forward to you guys listening in.
And please do, because we are the best basketball show on this side of the Mississippi. And please do check us out on Twitter at FastBreakISR. D-Lock, where's our time again?
8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. That gives you guys plenty of time on a Sunday.
Tune in.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly, everybody, here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. All right, we're pulling a little bit of an audible tonight. I know that if you read the text before the show and listen to my opening of the show, I was planning on talking some White Sox at this point, and we will get into some White Sox, but there was some big breaking news that occurred while we were doing the show just a little bit ago. The NHL draft lottery was going on tonight. The Blackhawks got the number 1 overall selection in this summer's draft. They had, after that horrible season that they went through, finishing 26, 49, and 7 with just 59 points. The Blackhawks get the number 1 overall pick. Why is that huge? Well, for starters, it's the number 1 overall pick. We just saw with the Bears what that can mean when you get the number 1 overall pick. The world is your oyster. Well, in this case, in the world of hockey, there is a superstar waiting there at number 1 overall. Connor Bedard. He's a teenager from Canada. He's just 17 years old. He is the prospect. The Blackhawks just got done dismantling what was left of their championship core from a decade ago. This young man will accelerate everything that the Hawks are doing. This will be Patrick Kane 2.0. This is probably the most anticipated NHL prospect since Connor McDavid. For those that don't know, first of all, you should be listening to Zach Pupples and myself tomorrow night as we talk all things hockey in the Neutral Zone. Connor McDavid is probably the single most exciting hockey player in the NHL right now. He is helping lead the Edmonton Oilers in a doozy of a second-round series with the Las Vegas Golden Knights right now. McDavid's one of the best in the league. Bedard is quite possibly the best prospect since McDavid. Just going through a few things for you here with this young man. Nathan McKinnon of the Colorado Avalanche. He's reigning champion, again, one of the stars of the NHL. He's talked about Bedard, quote, "Bedard's release is one of the best in the world right now at 17. McDavid has skated with Bedard. Quote, "It's remarkable to see. He shoots it so hard and with such a quick release." Hockey News first started writing about him when he was 12 years old. He was given special status to compete in the Canadian junior hockey and at the highest level of Canadian junior hockey. He was just 14 at the time. He's just the 7th player ever to be allowed to compete at that level, at that young of an age. You have to be older than that in order to compete at that level. We're talking Gretzky is the level of guy that they would make that kind of status for. Last year, when he was just 16, he scored 50 goals in junior hockey. And he's playing against young men that are old, significantly older than him, 18, 19, 20 years old. In the World Juniors tournament earlier this year, he led Canada to a gold medal. He had 23 points in 7 games. This young man is absolutely... If the Hawks don't pick him, then what the heck are any of you doing? What the heck are any of you guys doing in your positions? If you're not taking Bedard number 1 overall, then just trade out of the position now and get everything you can for it if you're not going to take him, because this young man is going to be the future of whatever franchise takes him. This is a huge, huge step forward for the Blackhawks. Incredibly exciting. We talked about this with the Bears when the Bears got the number 1 overall pick. It sucks that you have to go through a miserable season of constantly losing, constantly getting blown out, constantly looking terrible. But the fantastic consolation at the end of it is you get that number 1 overall pick. For the Bears, that meant flipping it and getting the King's ransom that Ryan Poles got. We talked all about that at the time. Here in this instance, there is a bona fide generational superstar just waiting for you to take him when you go at number 1. This is going to be fantastic. This is going to restart and hopefully be a terrific palate cleanser for hockey fans in this town. This is going to be a terrific thing for the franchise going forward. Zach and I will be discussing more of this tomorrow night on the Neutral Zone, 8 o'clock Central, right here on IE Sports Radio tomorrow night. So tune in for that. We will be discussing this plus the rest of the rest of the NHL playoffs that are going on right now. Some outstanding stuff going on there. But the Blackhawks essentially win the Connor McDavid. The Blackhawks win the Connor Bedard sweepstakes they earn the right to draft him number 1 overall in this summer's draft. Huge development for the Blackhawks tonight. All right, we are going to take another break, and then we'll figure out what we want to do next. I've got 3 things lined up for all of about 15 minutes to talk. So we'll do a little reset, and we'll see what we want to come back with. You are listening to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey yo, what's up? It's your man Bishop, the voice of This Is KC Sports, the show where we go over the Chiefs, the Royals, KC Current, Sporting KC, MU, and oh yeah, if we got time, we'll even throw in some of that KU stuff from my people on the 913 South. Come and hang out with us every Sunday, 2 p.m. Central Standard Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
Motorsports takes many forms, and there's one show on IE Sports Radio that's ready to cover it all.
I sure hope you're talking about you and I, Daryl, because I know the Extra Mile is the best place to go for everything motorsports related.
Yes, it is. From NASCAR to IndyCar to sports cars to everything in between, IE Sports Radio has everything covered for the fastest sport in the world.
Plus, don't forget all of our random shenanigans along the way.
That's right, Caitlin. So for plenty of motorsports coverage and plenty of Caitlinisms, check out The Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio with Daryl Kinsey Jr. and Caitlin Seen, Thursdays at 8 p.m.
What's good, fight fans? It's your boy, Marcus Los Great, here to give you what you want, here to give you what you need. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm coming to you live, straight from your mama's basement with a crispy, awesome white tea. We are coming to you live every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Adam Kernick with you here for another 11 minutes or so before we get out of here tonight. Had to pull a little bit of an audible there as the huge breaking news is the Chicago Blackhawks won the NHL lottery, meaning that superstar phenom, hopefully future face of the franchise, Connor Bedard, should be theirs. So we had to break in and talk about that a little bit in the last segment, which means we've got, let's see, we could go White Sox, we could go Sky. I've got a little bit of a football rant that we could go out to close out the show with. Where do we want to go? We're gonna spin the wheel here. We did baseball. We did Cubs in the first segment. So let's mix things up. Let's talk a little bit of Chicago Sky. They had their first preseason game of the year last night, beating Dallas last night. The WNBA's regular season is right around the corner. We will talk some White Sox. I will do some White Sox next week unless something again weird happens and we just absolutely, we got to shake everything up. But I promise Sox fans, I'm not forgetting about the White Sox. Taryn, Tammy, and Chuck talk about the Chicago Untouchables. I will mention the Untouchables a little bit on the way out. Taryn, of course, coming up right after us with all things volleyball. He was actually busy over the weekend covering the Chicago Untouchables as well as the rest of the National Volleyball Association. You can hear all about that right after us as we're done. So we'll tease that a little bit, set up Taryn a little bit there. So stick around for that. But don't worry, Sox fans. I will get to the White Sox. I'm not ignoring them. I am not the four-letter network that forgets that they exist from time to time. I promise. I swear. But let's talk some basketball. Let's talk some Sky specifically. It's going to be a very, very, very different looking Chicago Sky team that takes the court here in just a couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of names gone. Candace Parker, Courtney Vandersloot, Emma Meesman, Allie Quigley, Julie Allemond, Azra Stevens. All gone. That was roughly 3/4 of their offense on a night in, night out basis. All those names, they combined for basically 62.5 points a night out of the 80s, a little over 86 points a night that the Sky were scoring. Kalia Copper is still here, though. Copper is one of the most intense players in the WNBA, and she is a blossoming star in her own right. Some newcomers include Marina Mabry, Courtney Williams. So they're now looking to go a little bit more guard heavy with the organization, with the franchise. Courtney Williams is somebody who is not afraid to get in somebody's face. Of course, she and Copper got into it a little bit last year in the playoffs. So there's some attitude. There's going to be some attitude and some grit with this team. But it is going to be a transition year for the Sky. It's going to be interesting what to see from them this year. It's going to be interesting to see what they can accomplish, what they can do. I want to pull up here. I want to get last year's last year's numbers for reference a little bit here, but you hope that they can make another playoff run. But as we get started here, I feel like this could be a little bit of a transition year for them. They were 26-10 a year ago. You know, it looked like, oh man, they're going to be primed for another championship run. Now so many of those players are gone. It's going to be interesting to see what to expect. You know, it's going to be tough to know what to expect from them, but we're going to keep an eye on them throughout the season. I'm encouraged to see what the team can do. I'm encouraged to see what Kalia Copper can do. Now that obviously it's going to be about her with the team. She is unquestionably going to be the star of the team. You know, you had Candace Parker and Vandersloot, who were definitely the leaders on the team a season before. And now we're going to see what Copper can do when it's her turn. It's her chance to shine and be the guy, you know, the gal on the team. All right, real quick before we get out of here tonight, set up next week's show, next week's episode a little bit here. It was very nice to take a break from all the football. I love talking football. Don't get me wrong. Football was my first love and still is my first love as a sport. But at the same time, it is kind of nice to take a break from them. We will be talking NFL a little bit, though, because the schedule is getting released. And it's kind of an obligation when you do a sports talk show. You have to talk about the NFL schedule, even though we've known since January who the opponents will be. If you're a geek or a nerd like me, we already know who the overwhelming majority of the opponents in 2024 will be. And in 2025, we even know who's going to be home and who's going to be road. All this is the order. But it's the NFL, so therefore, we have to drag it out. We have to turn it into a thing. Our colleague Jess, one of the co-hosts of Niners East, Red, and Gold, talking about all things San Francisco 49ers, let us all know in the chat tonight. The NFL's announced they're going to be releasing the schedule in part over 2 days, over 3 different networks. Just release the gosh damn thing. You know the order. You know what it is. Just put it out there. East Coast Red and Gold. Thank you, Taryn, for correcting me. We know the order. You clearly have this thing written out. This isn't the sort of thing that needs to be leaked and done over multiple days. Just push the gosh damn thing out there. Let's get it over with and be done with it. You know, next we're going to have, we were joking a little bit amongst us in the group chat about this. Next we're going to have, it's going to devolve into, we have the NFL draft release party where they go to a different city and Goodell winds up in front of a podium and you hear the little ding, 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 ding. With the first game of the season, the NFL is picked and they do it for all 252 games. Just release the damn thing. So we will be discussing that a little bit in our own unique way next week. I'm not going to sit here and try and predict the season or anything like that, but we will discuss it. We will break that down. We will have of course, White Sox to get in there and discuss as well. We want to give them their fair shake after we weren't able to fit them in tonight. We'll have all sorts of other fun and exciting things for you all throughout the show too. So a little tease for next week. We will talk some football next week, but the NFL grinds my gears a little bit with the way that they choose to release the schedule. Just release it. Just get it out. Just be done with it. Just be done with it. All right, that does it for us here tonight. Big thank you to everybody for hanging out. All of our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlo's Great, Key to the Gate, Anonymous. Thank you for your continued support of the station, of this show, and the station as a whole. It is definitely appreciated and noted. thank you to Larry B. All the hard work that you do, sir, behind the scenes, keeping everything moving, keeping everything running, and working on finishing up your own advanced degrees and all those good things. Congratulations to everybody that got college degrees over the weekend, including the Bears' very own Justin Fields. He finished up his degree from Ohio State. Good for him. Also, congratulations to my nephew Joshua. He got his college degree over the weekend. So congrats to you, Joshua. Good job there, young man. He's got a job lined up already for him. He's got himself set up. Good work for him, young man. Congratulations also to Angela of our show. I'll let her announce the news, but just enough to say congratulations. Thank you also to Larry and Taryn and Mike for hanging out with us in the chat room tonight. Thank you, gentlemen. Taryn will be up right after us, breaking down all things volleyball after spending the weekend covering the National Volleyball Association and their events over the weekend. So he'll have some Chicago Untouchables content for us. So be sure to stick around for that. That's my favorite team name of all the teams in town. The National Volleyball Association's Chicago Untouchables gets an A+ to me for that. I love it. Finally, thank you for coming and listening and making this a part of your week, whether it's live here on Monday nights or it's later on as a podcast. Thank you for coming. We will be back right here at the same time next week. Until then, we'll see you then.